Thank you for joining. My name is Sarah Shuja, and I'm the marketing manager at McGraw Hill. Today, we're going to walk through our MyMath K-5 program. MyMath is a student-driven learning program. It has intuitive lesson format along with digital tools that can develop your customized content. And we've got our trainer today, Christy, who will cover this in detail. And just to remind you, this is a MyMath session for K-5 that we're going to cover today. The duration of this session is 60 minutes. I am your moderator today, and I'll be here in the background to help you if you have any technical difficulties or answer any questions that you may have. Please let me know in the Q&A box. And I want to introduce Christy Lefrere. Christy is a math curriculum specialist at McGraw Hill and has experience of over 25 years. And she's done numerous workshops. She's not new. She's done previous workshops with us as well on webinars. I'm so excited to have her here. Thank you so much for being here.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank y'all so much for having me today. So are we ready to get started?
I'm just going to quickly let everyone know that this session is being recorded, and you will be getting the recording of this session through email. If you're attending the session live, you'll also get a certificate once the webinar series is completed. So hopefully by tomorrow or by Sunday, you should have the certificate. A couple of people yesterday mentioned that their screen is blank and they cannot see the presenter presenting. I just want to let you know that if you're using any high bandwidth app like Netflix, YouTube, or any gaming platform, please close that down. But also, I do want to, this worked for a lot of people yesterday, is please try to log out and try back logging in. It has worked for many participants. Thank you. And we want to make this as interactive as possible. So use the chat box, use the Q&A box, use the chat box to interact with the presenter, and the Q&A box if you have any questions at all. And that's all from my end. Let me know if you need any help or any support. I can stop sharing right now. And over to you, Christy. Thanks.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you for having me today. It's my pleasure to be with you and share with just a little bit about the McGraw Hill MyMath program. So one of the nice things is that you can use it 100% print, 100% digital, or anywhere in between. And it does conform and work on any device. So I like to say maybe that tablet that grandma bought them, they can definitely use, any type of device or anything that they've got there. Personally, the kids absolutely usually love the print. And so every year they get that 2-volume, what we call interactive edition. It's fantastic. And then know that you, the teacher, you have 2 volumes per teacher. And the reason we did that is we were hoping to make it very easy and interactive for you to be able to carry around and use, because you're going to see some fantastic resources that are embedded within the teacher's edition. Now, also know that, of course, there is a digital platform and everything is going to be what I call at point of use. So you can just click and you can get to whatever resource you might need for that particular lesson. So that makes it super nice. Just very briefly, whenever you open up your teacher's edition, one of the key things you see is the contents in brief. So I can just kind of look along and see exactly what my scope and sequence is going to be for MyMath. And then, of course, if you dig a little deeper in there, you'll notice that each chapter has fantastic resources to help you get started. And then you'll move into the lessons and then the wrap up. So, your lessons are bookend with great ways to start your students, get your students up for success whenever they begin the chapter. And then, of course, at the end to wrap up the chapter for your students. Another key piece with MyMath is that there is one essential question for the entire chapter. So we're going to build on that same essential question throughout the entire chapter, which is important for students to make sure that they're gaining the understanding of those priority standards within a grade level. Whenever you do open up to a chapter level, you have this great roadmap laid out that'll show exactly the different materials that you need. The lesson presentations are all there, the types of assessment, and even response to intervention. So those key resources for all your different students. Now, the next page in your chapter opener is personally my favorite. I kind of call this my chapter GPS. It tells me exactly what is going on in this chapter because it begins by telling me what my students should already know, what my students are going to understand in this chapter, but not just the standard, but check this out, what my students should be able to do. So you're going to have examples of exactly what my students should be able to do during this chapter. And then, of course, where are we going next? So what skills and concepts are we doing next, whether it be in this grade level or maybe the next grade level. So this is kind of like what I said. I love to call this my chapter GPS, and it's one of my favorite pages within the My Math Teachers Edition. Now, every chapter has a theme, and so we'll connect that theme. You know, this one happens to be the great outdoors, and we'll connect that to a chapter project. And then, of course, at the beginning of every chapter, you will find that, how ready am I? So your students will have that just-in-time support right there for them with the how ready am I? Now, the beauty about that is, I like to say, we don't want you to have to be a hunter and gatherer. So one of the things we were talking about whenever we first were starting the webinar was, you know, what is one of your favorite things about My Math? Well, one of my favorite things about My Math personally is that I've got that response to intervention built right in to the program. So I don't have to go somewhere else to find that. I've got that targeted intervention right there. So that's another really nice piece that is there within there. Now, it is only online. So I'm going to go online and show that to you in just a minute. But if you're looking through your book and you're like, I don't see that, it is an online resource. Some other keys to help set students up for success is vocabulary. So you'll see right there built in at the beginning of every single chapter are key vocabulary cards. Students can take them with them, you know, cut them apart. Sometimes I even suggest you put them on a ring, one of those little key rings, and I tell my students that's their ring of knowledge. So really nice ways that you can embed that into your day. Then last but not least, whenever you see the beginning of the chapter is foldables. Foldables are the kinesthetic graphic organizer that have been tried and true for well over 20 years. And basically, whenever students use foldables, it increases their retention to almost about 20% because they begin interacting, they take ownership, and they really make learning the concepts theirs. If you haven't been using the foldables, that's another key piece that I suggest you use. And also know that there's professional learning, and you can look up and find great videos on how to even use those foldables if you're new to that. But they're ready-made right there in the book, so use them. From here, we'll move into a lesson, and we'll just really quickly talk a little bit about the lesson structure itself. So every lesson is consistent in 5 parts, and the lesson begins with launch. So we want to have that be curious moment. What ways can I get my students engaged? Then from there, we're going to have some type of build, and a lot of times that's a hands-on, something that we can allow students to kind of build or tinker with the mathematics. Then, of course, we want them to practice because practice makes progress. We'll apply what they've learned, and then we'll wrap it up. So those are always going to be the 5-part structure of each and every lesson within My Math. The first part, whenever we launch the lesson, For you, the teacher, in your teacher's edition, you're going to see the focus, the coherence, the rigor. And then they're also going to show you that you already have what I call my grab and go, which is a pre-built presentation right there, ready for you to go. And of course, that's digital. And I'll definitely show you where that presentation is if you haven't seen that. But there's a nod to that in your teacher's edition, just as a reminder. And then as you move from the launch, then you'll move into investigate the math. And so that's the build part of the lesson. And this is where, to me, is the most essential part of the My Math lesson. And that's where we're going to build that conceptual understanding. So we're going to allow students to explore, as I said, build, tinker with the mathematics, and then we'll model it. And for those students that are thinking and moving forward, we can have and extend their thinking. So we can continue on to make sure we reach all levels of our learners through this particular part of the lesson. From there, we'll move into the practice, and every one of your lessons has built-in independent practice right there in the book for your students to practice. So I like to say no copy required. I don't have to hurry up and go run and have something else to practice. And then, of course, I want students to apply what they've learned. And this is where you'll find a fantastic piece of built-in differentiation. Just like at the beginning of the chapter, you don't have to go be the hunter and gatherer. My Math has done it for you, not just at the chapter level, but for every single lesson. You've got your differentiated instruction. You've got things to help students that are approaching level, on level, and beyond level. And many, many, many times, yes, you see these are hands-on activities for the students. We know we like to keep our students busy. And of course, there is an additional worksheet. And then you've got differentiation for your English language support. So for those students that are just beginning to emerge into the English language, or expanding, or even bridging, these are fantastic pieces for all of your students. So basically, in every single My Math lesson, you've got 8 different ways to help differentiate. And, you can do these in forms of centers, or you can do this as whole group. There's just lots of different opportunities for you and your students to differentiate. Then, of course, last but not least, we'll wrap it up. And that's where you'll see that there is a my homework page, and they're embedded right there for the students. And then there is always a quick little piece of formative assessment. So you'll have that quick little kind of exit ticket there for the students to for you to see how well your students are doing. Now, that is something that you find in the teacher's edition. And so, like this one says, write several multiple digits numbers on the board and place a box around a digit, and then just ask the students. So this is something that you can do, just quick check as a whole group with the students, kind of check in and see how well they did with the lesson. Then there is some unique pieces embedded within your chapter. And one of them is what we call a PSI, a problem-solving investigation. So you'll see here on my screen, I put up a few pages there. If you've got your teacher's edition and you want to focus in and look at one of these, there's some sample page numbers of where you'll find the problem-solving investigation right there. So in this problem-solving investigation, we'll always learn students a new strategy. Then we'll practice, we'll apply, review, and of course, they'll have homework. So it's pretty much the same wrap it up structure, the same structure as they have in the 5-part lesson structure of a typical My Math lesson. It's just the nice thing here, they are learning a problem-solving strategy. Now, the first problem-solving strategy that we're going to launch in every grade is the 4-step plan, so that we can set students up for success. And then part 2 is they'll build and conceptual understanding. And then we'll move on to allow them to focus on the practice and apply. Now, even in these problem-solving strategies, you'll see that there's also the same lesson structure, and you're set up for success with differentiation. So key pieces there in that. And like I said, that's just another piece that's within the chapter. And so it looks very, very similar to the regular lessons, but please don't just skip over that. It is truly a way to help students build their mathematical understanding and also those great mathematical practices so that they can begin to be those great doers of mathematics. At the end of a chapter, you've got your chapter review. And so there is that quick concept check that you'll see there, and exactly, where we can help if students are struggling with that. You'll see your intervention piece there. Of course, I mentioned that we have an essential question that begins the chapter, and then we build on that same essential question throughout the entire chapter. So at the end of the chapter, there is a reflect piece, and we're just going to reflect on the essential question. And once again, you're going to see a fantastic graphic organizer here to allow students to really interact with it and show what they know. This to me is one of the best pieces within the My Math, because this reaches all levels of learners, depending on my students that are approaching learning or might be struggling with this chapter. They have something that they can add on this reflect page just as well as those high flyers. They could, definitely fill up the entire page and tell me all different kinds of things that they know about this essential element that's being developed. So a really key piece there, as I said in the My Math, is that the essential question is built throughout the chapter, and then it really gives students a chance to shine here at the end of the chapter with that reflection piece. Of course, there's also the traditional assessment masters that you'll see here within each and every chapter. And within that, you're going to find your leveled on level. You're also going to find your approaching level, and then you'll find your beyond level for each and every one of these. And there is vocabulary test and oral assessments too. So that's kind of a quick, just brief overview of the layout of My Math in the print. From here, I'm going to go digital, but I also want to pause to see if anything came up that you might need to ask me real quick within the Q&A or the chat.
Chrissy, there are two questions. I learned, sorry, they're not questions actually. They're like, it's just a comment by George. He says, I learn best when I can follow along by clicking. Thanks, George.
Yeah, so that's where we're going next. That's exactly it. And then I see also, can we log in? Do you have a demo username and password, or do I need to grab one of those real quick?
George, do you have, I'm happy to send it in the chat box, Christy. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Let me get that out. So I think George says, I have one for McGraw Hill math, but I don't know My Math. It's the same.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the same.
I am going to switch over to the platform then. Hopefully I'm still sharing my screen, and now you see my digital platform that says, let's go shopping. Okay. Before I start clicking, I like to make sure that I'm there. And in the chat, were you able to find? Whoops.
I'm just dropping the login details in the chat.
Okay, I'm going to give everybody just a second to get those login details. Because I'm with George, sometimes that makes a big difference if I can kind of follow along. So we'll take a second here. We'll take a commercial break.
And in case you do have your login details, feel free to get on.
Yeah. So each and every grade level has their unique, whenever you go in to Connect Ed, you'll see that every grade level has their own unique grade. So you just launch. And of course, whenever you get here, one of the great things is that you can have a virtual tour. So you can start your own virtual tour today. I'm going to be your tour guide. So I'm going to click cancel here with that. And then also know that we do some updates. And so if you would like, you can also sign up for occasional emails from us to let you know what's going on, you know, with the MyMath. So feel free to do that. And then whenever you log in, this is what we call our home page. This is our site. And the key thing about this, as I said, it's going to show me the resources that are available for that particular piece that I'm on. So the last time I logged in here, I was at chapter 4, Am I Ready? So the resources that I see right here in this carousel are for the chapter 4, Am I Ready? So remember, whoops, let me back up. I didn't mean to do that. Remember, one of the key resources I told you that at the Am I Ready, which that's that little pretest, was a strategic intervention guide. So I'm here at the Am I Ready, chapter 4. And if I scroll along these carousels, you'll see like here's the video. So this is just a quick, engaging little video for students to watch about, you know, the chapter. Remember, we've got a chapter project. So we want to connect that all together. So there'll be a video. You'll find tools here. You'll find the check digital if you want to do that Am I Ready digital. But you'll also notice this little arrow right here. And if you just click on it, this will show you your parent connection. It'll show you your worksheets, your print. But one of my favorite pieces of the MyMath is right here. This red is that intervention piece. So if I'm at the beginning of the chapter and I give that Am I Ready and my students need some intervention to set them up for success, I can click right here. And this is going to take me to a new tool. And that new tool is the targeted strategic intervention. And in this, you're going to see exactly student pages and activities that are aligned to the standards that are going to be addressed. So here's that chart. How ready am I? If my students missed 1 through 5 on that, how ready am I? Then they need help with multiplication practice. And so where was this concept in MyMath? Here it is. It was in grade 3, but I don't have to go to grade 3 and grab this. It's going to be right here as I scroll through. There it is. There's that multiplication practice. And so I can print that off. You'll see that right there, there's very similar. Here's a lesson goal. So if you have a co-teacher or you have a class that you pull out for that, you do not have to do this. It's all there. Right there. There's the next one, base 10 blocks. There's my power practice. I love power practice. And then here for me, the teacher. There's my lesson. So that's one of the hidden gems that I think is embedded within the MyMath at the beginning of each and every lesson, unit, chapter. Woo, let me get that straight. Now, anytime I click on this, I call it a ribbon up here, My Math, that just takes me back home. It just takes me home to where I want to be here within the My Math. Another key piece embedded here is right underneath the word Teacher Center, you find your ebook. And whenever you open your ebook, it opens up in a separate window. So if you click here on ebook, it'll open up in a separate window. And then you'll notice up here I have 2 tabs open. So I'll just open up my second tab. And this is my ebook. And this just allows me to move forward. Here's my lesson. And we could look at my lesson this way, and the students could follow along in their book. You'll see right here, there's a reference to Math in My World. There's something that we could watch. Well, I could click down here and I could just watch it, or the tutor would be right there for me. And then I can click over here and this takes me to the next page. One of another key features that I think is another hidden gem within My Math is within the guided practice. Every time you see this Talk Math, so right here, I think it's so important for us to build that fluency as we're moving forward. And so let's talk about math. Let's continue to make sure that our students are understanding building their math fluency. Something that's fun for you, the teacher, whenever, and this is only for the teacher, whenever you are in the ebook, is you'll notice at the very bottom left-hand corner, you've got something called answers, and you can turn your answers on or off. So if you want students to work through this example, and maybe you're circulating around the room, monitoring, and then you need to all of a sudden, flash up the answers for the students, how are we doing? You can definitely do that. So that's one of the keys that you see right here in the My Math platform. And like I said, it's a little hidden on the bottom left-hand corner, but you can just sit there and turn your answers on and off whenever you're in the ebook. And it's an excellent way to keep those students engaged. You get to the independent practice, no worries. Like I said, you don't have to go in and hurriedly write down the answers. You've got a great little key that turns them on and off right here. So that's the ebook. I'm pausing just to make sure, I'm looking to make sure that there's not any questions that I need to back up and check on. A question came in, can we download the ebook? And unfortunately, the answer is no. The ebook is not downloadable due to the interactive nature of it. There are some pieces that are downloadable, but the ebook is not one of them. So great question there. And this is My Math. Yes, there is another program called Reveal Math that is on a little different of a website. So you might want to attend. I believe that training might have been yesterday, but I'm sure that we could send you out the video of that too as well. Okay, another question came up about the online assessment. So that's an awesome place to go next. Hopefully you guys, want to keep this as interactive as possible. So I'm live and I'll go different places. And of course, I'm going to show you some of my very favorite, but I will also want to make sure that, that we answer your questions. So up here in My Math, this is your Teacher Center. And all I did was I just came in here and went to exactly where I was the last time I entered. Now, I can navigate through here. I can navigate to any chapter, and, I can move down in this chapter from the Am I Ready to my Math words to my particular lesson. And whenever I do that, that changes the carousel, and that changes to the different pieces that are available for the lesson of that particular lesson. Now, if I continue to scroll down, I can move all the way to the Reflect and Practice and even to the Performance task. So whenever I look here, this would take me to all the practice pieces that I have. Now, the question came in about the digital online assessments. So these aren't necessarily that for my students to take online, but this is where I can get any of the chapter tests. Let's say I wanted to print them out. Now, if I want my students to take the test digitally online, let me show you where you need to go. So I'm going to click back on this ribbon here. That's the My Math, and that's just like taking me home. So that's all that does, is that just takes me back to my dashboard here. Then at the very top, there's a little word called menu. It's got 3 lines underneath it. If I open up that menu, this gives me all these different hot links. The first hot link says Connect In, and that would take me back out to my landing page. The next one is class management. So this is where I would manage my class roster, those particular types of things. This third one is called resources, and we'll come back and revisit resources after I talk a little bit about assessment. And this to me is kind of like going to the grocery store. I can look at all the different aisles and I can look at it, and sort things. So I really like that one. Assignment tracker is where obviously you can see and track and see what your students have done on their assignment. You have a calendar here. My files. So we give you the opportunity to upload some of your own files right here within the My Math site. And then that would allow you the ability to share it with your students so they don't have to go to this side and that side. They can just go right here to get all that they need for their math. Help buttons, pretty self-explanatory. We do have excellent help support, whether it be online, you can live chat with somebody, and then you can email them or even pick up the phone and call them. Home takes me home. This is our home page. Plan and Present is the digital version of your teacher's edition. So we'll go there in a minute and we'll see that Plan and Present is the digital version of the teacher's edition. And then, yes, I'm finally getting to that Q&A, that question that somebody asked is, where is the online assessment? So whenever you get to this tab, you'll notice that there's a little plus sign right here. Little one, probably need to make that a little bigger. And so if you open up that plus sign, then this is where you can find your online assessments as well as your print assessments. So if you click right here at online, this will take you loading to all your online. You can assign from a library. So I can just choose it. And you'll see here are all my tests. And then I could go in and I could assign this to a class, or I can copy it, can move it. Of course, I can go to my own, particular test bank, and then I could assign from that particular. So here's some spiral reviews or anything that I want to do from the McGraw Hill test bank. Or you see I had made a few myself, so you can do that. But excellent question on where to find the online assessment, and that is underneath this assessment tab, and you open that up and that'll give you your online, as well as you could also get to your print assessments there too. Now, of course, once you do those assessments, then you have what we call the data dashboard, and that's where your reports live for the assessment. Another really fun place to start with My Math is this e-toolkit. Now you can get to it here, but you'll also see that it's embedded. You may have noticed no matter where I go within the chapter, just about no matter. I went to check your progress. I was looking for the problem solving. Anywhere I go, you'll find that e-toolkit there ready for your students to use. And then we have the link right here. This is a fun place for you to go and just, once again, whenever your students are beginning to explore the online material, this is a fun place for students to go in and see. I mean, like, how fun is that to have this virtual compass right here? The students can add different tools, different backgrounds. So on the left-hand side, you've got your tools. So all your different kinds of fractions, your counters, your pattern blocks, tangrams, base 10 blocks. Base 10 blocks are one of my favorite. So you can get to them through here, or like I said, you'll always have that icon just about everywhere except on the assessment. The standards tracker. So this is where you would see your standards. Professional learning. I mentioned this at the beginning that we have some great professional learning already out there for you. So you can definitely look at that. A glossary, just a little digital notebook. And something that's really nice is down here is you can send messages, safe messages to your students. It'll go straight only to your students. You can send it to one student or a whole group of students. And then also you could start discussion threads. So if you do have some students that are virtual and you want to kind of let them collaborate together, you can start some My discussions with a group of students, which makes it really, 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 really nice. So that's kind of the layout of the menu. And remember, what did I do? I just went up here to the very top left and I clicked on this menu button. Now, I'm going to go, I know we only have an hour, and so I want to go to a few of the key pieces that I see that you might want to use within this. And one of them is the plan and present. So as I said, this right here is the teacher's edition, but just laid out here digital. But it gets better because not only does it show, remember, here's the chapter at a glance. So there's all my pacing and all that great stuff. And, you know, my favorite, my GPS page, what's in it, all that. But if there's anything that I need, there it is right here. Like that strategic intervention guide is also right here. And then as I move forward and I go to launch the chapter, okay, here it is, you know, introduction. We're going to talk about let's go shopping. Well, what does that video look like? Is that something as I'm planning that I might want to show? Well, I can just click on it right here and it'll pull up.
Let's go shopping. Did you know that math is everywhere when you're shopping? I can use multiplication to figure out how much lunch is going to cost my family, or how many tokens I have for the arcade, or even how much it would cost to buy new video games. Over the weekend, my 4 friends and I went shopping for matching t-shirts. One store had t-shirts on sale for $7
So
each.
you guys can get the idea here. This just allows you to see exactly how, you know, is that a video that would interest my students? Do I want to plan for that? And so as I'm planning, excuse me, all my resources are right here, just a click away. So then I can just open up any of these folders and this will get me to any of the resources there. Now, one of the nice things is that you've got a gear on these resources. And so you can open this resource. You might say, oh, this is definitely something I want to assign to my students. And also note that another additional add-on is that you are able to link your McGraw Hill account to your Google Classroom account, and you could just very easily share between your Google class and your McGraw Hill class with many, many of our resources. So that's another nice key feature here that you see. Now, some of the resources are downloadable. Somebody asked about that. And let me see. I was thinking that I would find one right here. That would be, well, I'm batting 1,000 this morning. Here we go. Here's one that I can also download. So there are some of the key resources. This is the Math at Home. that begins at the beginning of the chapter. So there you go. You could definitely download that if you needed to as well. And this just allows me to move, you know, from lesson to lesson and chapter to chapter. So I can navigate through here. At the beginning of the chapter, and another way to launch the chapter, you'll also see that this is where you find that project. So you've got your project, your chapter project here. And another key that is with My Math, and some of you may receive, is your learning stations. So if you purchase that as an add-on in My Learning Stations, you'll have some graphic novels and some problem-solving cards and some activity cards. And this is where you would find the correlations to that on when to use each one of those pieces within the learning station. There's also some tips for new teachers, and I don't know about you guys, that's some of my favorite, even though I've been in education for well over 30 years now, that never loves still to read those. Now, as I navigate through here, all I'm doing is I'm opening up this little tab at the very top, and I'm just choosing a chapter, and then I can just go in and choose a particular lesson. And whenever I choose a lesson, now I'm going to have and see that same consistent lesson structure, the launch, the build the concept for understanding, the practice, the apply, the differentiation, and the wrap up. So I have this all right here. I also have, you know, what's the math? So what is the focus? I showed you that GPS at the beginning of the chapter, but now here's what's the focus of this particular lesson. And it'll share that with me. And remember that building on the essential question is right there too as well. I have the developing the vocabulary. And then we'll have, as I said, the launch, the build, the practice, the apply, the differentiate. Now this is beautiful right here, but also at the very, 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 very top, whenever I'm here, I have a presentation. And this is where I can go in and I can launch that presentation just like McGraw Hill has it for me, or I can even edit it. And then whenever I edit it, I'd have a customized presentation. But I'm going to hit launch presentation, and it's loading for me. Oops. And you'll see that it looks very similar, you know, to a little PowerPoint. And then I can just progress from page to page right up here on there. Or let me show you something else. Right here, there's this little sorter, and this would allow me to jump to the slides. So this is something that's super nice because here's my consistent lesson structure. Here's the part that we're going to launch. Here's my build. There's my practice. There's my apply and my wrap up. And then guess what, folks? There's even differentiation. So all this is already embedded right into my presentation. And as I said, I can just grab it and move from slide to slide. Sorry, I can't see this morning on my screen. And like right here, here's my problem of the day. Then we can move and see the answers to that. I also have a quick check, my test practice. And then here's the best part, investigate the math. Is there more than one way to estimate products? Why or why not? And so that's what we're going to explore today. And then as we move forward, we're going to model this. And what I want you to notice down here is that you'll be able to go in and have those answers for your students. And then also you could pick up any of the tools that you need. I went one too far. Went back up. And here are my writing tools. So if we wanted to be able to talk about, you know, we've got 3 cows here and the trailer, you'll have all that there ready to rock and roll and be ready to go for you as you move forward. So this is one of the best pieces that you'll find within that. is the presentation. Now there's a lot in that presentation. So what can you do? You can edit it. And whenever you click that editor, then this is where you'll have the option of moving the slide, hiding the slide, rearranging things that you need to, whatever you'd like to do within that. Then once you get it the way you want it, then it will become now a customized presentation. So tons of resources here at the plan and present piece. A great question did come in, and that question is, does this presentation have the same questions like the ebook, or are they different? They are the exact same. So whenever your students are following along in there, it's going to be the same, you know, they can follow along in their book as you've got right here within the presentation. So that makes it very nice for you and your students. From here, I'm going to click back to the My Math. And I just click because I just kind of, you know, grounds me to home. And now what I want to do is go back over to my menu. And whenever I click on that, I am going to click to this third place called Resources. And, you know, people ask me, hey, how do you use this site? Honestly, this is how I use this site the most often. It's going right here to Resources. And then this is just like a grocery store for me, because I can search by lesson. So I can go in to any chapter and I can see the beginning of the chapter resources, or I can drop down and I can go to like lesson -2, 1, and I can see exactly what resources are available for that. Also, mentioning presentations. Not only do I have that interactive presentation, but I also have a PDF of it, because we do know that, you know, internets go down or things like that. So this would be the place somebody asked about a PDF. And so this would be something that would be nice that you could save. We're asking about ways to look at some of the material. This would be the place that you can get that. And that way you would have that backup in case you can't get to the interactive. So if that sparked somebody's interest, let me show you again how I got there. I'm here at home. I went to the main menu and I went to Resources. And as I said, Resources is just, to me, just like a grocery store. I can go down all the different aisles. So I'm in a chapter. I used my drop-down menu and I went to a chapter and I went into a lesson. And then this shows me all the specific resources for that particular lesson. And one of those resources was my lesson presentation. So I just clicked on that. And there was my interactive one, but there was also a PDF. And you see, I can use that little gear, and there's where I can download it. Now from here, I can click back to all resources. Can we share the presentation with our students? Whenever your students log in and they get onto their carousel into My Math, they'll have their presentation should be right in here. That should be there. So see, like right here, the students should be able to get to their interactive presentation too from you. So yes. So excellent question that came in. Now I'm going to go back to Resources, and it remembered exactly where I was. And you'll see that, you know, we looked at the lesson presentations, but right below that is the word More. And that's one of the other nice pieces that you'll see here is I talked about those learning stations, and maybe your school didn't have those learning stations in print. Well, right underneath here and More, you will find some of the pieces that are in the learning station. So like, for example, the leveled readers. Here are my different readers. So my real world problem solving readers, and you'll have the approaching level, the on level, and then also the beyond level. So that's a really nice piece here. I can click on resources, and you'll see that I also have tutors, and these are just whiteboard examples that are done by veteran math teachers that mimic the problems that the students are working on. So these are not the same problems that are in their book, but these will just mimic them. You'll see here they are available in English and in Spanish. So,
hello, this is Mrs. Hyman.
I'm just going to fast
The
forward.
distance between two cities is 2.
You may not be hearing her super well. I'm just going to fast forward her. But this just, as I said, is an instructor, and it just is an excellent aid for your parents, for your students that maybe need to hear something very similar or like to what you've got there in there. So a really, really super nice piece that's embedded here within there. And then worksheets. I need that additional, Black Line Master right here, or I need to be able to go in to the worksheet. So that's a super, super great piece. So our time is running short, and now we only have about 5 minutes. So I want to pause. I just kind of gave you a quick digital dive here within the platform. I tell everybody, go tinker with it, go play around with it. Knock on wood, we haven't been able to just really break it yet, but you'll see, here's your ebook, here's your presentation right there. Whenever you go in, check out your menu, drop down your online assessments. Once you do online assessments, you'll have a dashboard, and your plan and present is where you get to your teacher's edition, and then resources. You can search by lesson, or I can even go by key word search. And this right here shows me look at this, check this out, all the resources that are right here for this grade level in my math. If you find things you really like, just tag them to your favorites, and you just do that by putting adding it to the little star. And now that'll drop over to your favorites. So thanks for having me today. I want to open it up to make sure that I answer the questions that you might have for me, and we'll send this out. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions for Christy?
Okay, a question did come in that the tutor will help the teacher to give the students how to solve a question. So yeah, the tutor, those personal tutors, they're just, and I'll go back to resources. That's the easiest way to find them, is basically it just presents an explanation of a step-by-step solution like the problem that's in the book. So I might need to clarify that. So thank you for that question. Anybody else?
I think it was very clear, and we have not received any further questions.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me today.
No, really, thank you, Christy, for your time and for being here. I really appreciate you doing this for us. I think it's early morning for you.
It is, but anytime I'll get up for you.
Thank you so much. That we really appreciate it. And I guess that's all for today. If you have any questions, please do let us know, or you can always email back to us. We've got webinars running the next week as well. I'm just going to drop the link in the chat box. In case you want to register for the remaining webinars, you will get a recording of this session. I just want to remind you, and along with the certificate as well. Thank you so much, everyone. I've dropped the link for the for the rest of the webinars in case you want to register. I'm just checking if anyone has any question. Is there any login password? So you should have your login from the school, or our implementation team would have been in touch with you. So every school has their own login. The login that we have shared is a demo login. So you can't use the demo login for the year. So make sure you are in your own this login that's provided to you by the school. I'm happy to drop in the demo login for you. So that's the demo login in case. How will we get the recorded video? If you mean this webinar, you will get it by email. Thanks a million. You're very welcome. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining. Glad you found it useful. Goodbye.
Bye.